Today, we're unpacking a massive, fascinating shift happening right now in the tech world. We're looking at how AI is fundamentally shaking up one of the most critical, foundational software projects in human history, the Linux kernel. Now, if you think AI is just changing how we write emails or generate funny images, you're absolutely going to want to stick around for this. We are talking about the very infrastructure of modern computing being completely turned upside down.
Let's just dive right into this crazy number, 35 million. That is 35 million lines of code making up the Linux kernel today. It's a project that's literally been evolving for 35 years. I mean, it powers everything, right? From the smartphone in your pocket to global stock exchanges, all the way up to spacecraft. Now, keeping a massive project like this on track requires incredible organization. And honestly, for decades, that organization was practically running on autopilot.
The creator himself, Linus Torvalds, recently pointed out just how rock-solid things were. He mentioned that after 2 decades, 20 whole years of smooth sailing and steady progress using the exact same release process, everything was just suddenly upended. About 6 months ago, this highly predictable world of kernel development took a massive hit, a total seismic shift. Which brings us to our first major point, a sudden spike in commits.
The shock to the system was pretty much immediate. Over the last 2 kernel releases, maintainers saw a sudden, sharp 20% spike in code commits compared to the baseline of previous years. Now, at first, Torvalds thought, okay, maybe companies are just super eager to get their code into a major new release. But he quickly realized what was actually happening. AI tools had gotten so good that they completely lowered the barrier to entry for coding. The AI is doing this massive chunk of the initial heavy lifting, which allows a total wave of new developers to just easily submit patches.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. It's the core paradox that Torvalds highlights. See, he actually loves the technical side of AI. He thinks it's brilliant and incredibly useful. So the conflict isn't with the tech itself. The real issue? It's causing massive social pain points. Why? Because human developers simply cannot scale to match the sheer endless output of an AI. Think about it. 25 years ago, Torvalds had to completely change his own workflow because he couldn't scale as just one guy. Fast forward to today, and the entire global community of maintainers is being forced out of their comfort zones because they literally cannot scale fast enough to meet this giant flood of AI-assisted contributions.
And that leads us right into the dark side of this, the security spam problem.
It's crazy when you look at the stark contrast between how things used to run and how they're running right now. In the old days, the kernel's highly secretive security mailing list was handled by just a few trusted experts. They dealt with these complex vulnerabilities quietly. Today, well, thanks to AI, the maintainers are getting absolutely overrun by duplicate reports. You've got tens, maybe hundreds of people running the exact same AI tools, and they're flooding the list with slightly tweaked reports that all point to the exact same underlying bug. So these highly specialized, brilliant developers are now spending all their time basically acting as a glorified forwarding service for AI spam.
So, to combat this absolute flood of spam, Torvalds and his team had to roll out a brand new policy. And the rule is actually pretty simple. If you find a bug using AI, you have to assume it's already public knowledge. I mean, the logic is totally bulletproof, right? If your AI found it, 100 other people's AIs found it too. But there is a catch. Torvalds is practically pleading with the community on this last point. Even if the bug is known, please don't publicly share the actual exploit code just to make a maintainer's life miserable on a Friday afternoon.
Which perfectly sets up our next major issue, the 0-minute disclosure.
Now, this is absolutely crucial. We're talking about a terrifying concept known as the 0-minute difference. Back in the day, maintainers actually had a little bit of breathing room to quietly fix a bug and tell users, hey, upgrade your systems before revealing the flaw to the world. Not anymore. Now you have these PR-hungry security companies using AI to uncover bugs, and then they instantly brand them. I'm talking fancy logos, custom web domains, the whole shebang. They're publishing these vulnerabilities to the entire world before the kernel developers have even a single minute to write a patch.
And listen, this isn't just theoretical fear-mongering. This is happening right now. Recently, 4 major local privilege escalation vulnerabilities, including the notorious Dirty Pag bug, were disclosed in this exact highly publicized way. Literally within 3 hours of a fix being issued, or sometimes before a fix even exists at all, these splashy blog posts are already up. These security firms are totally prioritizing being the first to break the news just to get that juicy journalistic attention. And who pays the price? The end users, who are left totally unprotected while maintainers scramble on the back foot.
As you might expect, Torvalds' reaction to these companies prioritizing PR stunts over responsible disclosure is incredibly blunt.
It's totally unforgiving. When a company pulls a stunt like this, his response is basically, here is a company I never want to work with. Because think about it, if a company is willing to treat the foundational Linux kernel with such blatant disregard just to score a few quick PR points, they're going to do it to absolutely anyone.
The rich irony here is just staggering. You have these cybersecurity companies burning massive amounts of money, chewing through AI compute tokens just to find open source bugs for clout. They immediately rush out and hit publish on these splashy PR blog posts. Yet, strangely enough, out of all these recent high-profile AI-discovered bug reports, absolutely zero of them came with a helpful code patch. Zero. They want all the fame of finding the problem, but absolutely none of the responsibility of actually helping the open source community fix it.
But let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture here. Short-term pain for long-term gain.
Because if you're sitting there thinking, well, maybe we should just abandon open source and hide from AI, you really need to think again. Yes, open source absolutely faces a huge challenge right now trying to patch bugs as fast as AI can find them. But closed source software, they're in an even worse position. AI can easily reverse engineer closed source code to uncover those exact same vulnerabilities. But here's the kicker. Unlike open source, closed source projects completely lack that massive global community needed to actually step in and help fix those problems. They are entirely on their own.
And that is exactly why Torvalds remains highly optimistic about all of this. Like he says, the conflict isn't that AI is bad. Actually, finding bugs is great, because the real problem is all the bugs you didn't find. Sure, it is incredibly painful right now. Maintainers are being pushed to their absolute limits, no doubt about it. But Torvalds views this whole social choke point as just a phase of short-term pain, because in the long run, using AI to aggressively root out issues hidden deep inside 35 million lines of 35-year-old code, that is going to lead to a fundamentally better, cleaner, and vastly more secure end product.
So it leaves us with a fascinating paradox to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. If the greatest threat to our software isn't the bugs we know about, but the ones lurking in the dark, could this overwhelming wave of AI-generated chaos actually be exactly what open source needs to survive? It's definitely a bitter pill for maintainers to swallow today, but it just might be the painful, totally necessary medicine that guarantees the future security of the entire open source ecosystem. Keep that in mind the next time you hear about an AI discovering a crazy new exploit.